AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
From
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
and here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR. We are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Coming to you today from Louisiana's Playground. We are in Lake Charles at Walk-Ons on Common Street. We are fired up to be here, courtesy of our friends at Visit Lake Charles, our friends with ABC Pelican Chapter, Mockler Beverage. Here at Walk-Ons as well, could not be more fired up to hang out for the next 3 hours. We got Heath Schroyer, who will join us on site. Former Tiger Christian Lockacher will join us on site. Ronnie Rance will be here as well. Seth Walder from ESPN in 15 minutes, talking some New Orleans Saints. But let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
You know, there was a time where if you had a 5-star committed and he flipped, it would be full on melt mode. And it would kind of feel warranted. I mean, it even felt a little bit like that a couple of years ago when Decorian Moore, number one wide receiver, flipped, and of course the Bryce Underwood situation. Yesterday, Jaiden Bryant flipped from LSU to Miami, and I'm just kind of like, It's a very weird, that's the unsettling part. Not that you lost a 5-star edge rusher commitment, it's that I'm really not bothered by it. Let me kind of give you the nuts and bolts if you haven't heard or don't remember the whole story. So Lane Kiffin gets hired he's introduced December the 1st. 2 days later, Jaiden Bryant commits to LSU. He becomes the first commitment of the Kiffin era. He's an edge rusher, 6'3", 260, out of South Carolina, had a reputation with Sterling Lucas, who, of course, Lane Kiffin would hire to be his defensive line coach, now coaching the edge rushers. You look at the Rivals industry ranking, and Jaiden Bryant's a dude, all right? He is, in the composite, the number 29 player, regardless of position. 24/7 actually has him as the 19th best player, regardless of position. So, true, legit, elite edge rusher in this year's class. 5-star in the industry rankings. So he's a dude. He's been committed all the way up until a day ago. And this is the really bizarre part. Like, we've all seen wackadoo recruiting stories. Like, we saw that kid who committed to Ole Miss years ago. Remember when he went skydiving, jumped out of the plane, undid his jumpsuit, and he had an Ole Miss jersey on or whatever? That's the kid who got trucked by Leonard Fournette on the east sideline in Tiger Stadium. But anyway, the crazy part is, like, we've all seen wackadoo stuff. So it's like 6:30 p.m. Central on Wednesday when Hayes Fawcett puts out the graphic that Jaiden Bryant's flipped from LSU to Miami. 5 hours prior, Jaiden Bryant put out a tweet, "Go Tigers," in case y'all forgot, with the tiger emoji. Essentially would look like he was just reaffirming his commitment to LSU. And 5 hours later, he's flipping. Like, he was obviously trolling everybody and whatever. But I see this two ways. Number one, I get, if you're Jaiden Bryant, why you kind of feel the way that you do with LSU, okay? He committed 2 days after Lane Kiffin had been hired and had been committed solidly since. Last weekend, first weekend of official visits, LSU brings in another 5-star edge rusher in Abraham Ceesay. And I've shared this with you, but some of the conversations I have had with people, let's just say close to the LSU football program, even on a weekend when Jalen Brewster, the number one player in the country, was on campus, there were people on that staff that thought Ceesay was the best player on campus last weekend. So you bring in, look, Ceesay's from Pennsylvania. He's thought to be a Notre Dame lean. He may not end up at LSU. But the point is, you have a 5-star edge committed, and last weekend you bring in another 5-star in Abraham Ceesay. And then this weekend, you're bringing in another 5-star edge rusher in KJ Green. KJ Green is from Georgia, and he is, by the way, he's a 5-star as well, edge rusher. 24/7 ranks him as the 8th best prospect regardless of positions. They have him as a top 10 overall player. So if you're Jaiden Bryant, you go, man, I'm a 5-star. I was the first commit to Lane Kiffin. I've been committed solidly. And then all of a sudden, last weekend they bring in a 5-star at my position. This weekend they bring in another 5-star at my position. What do I have to do? So I kind of get it from his perspective to go, I got offers, I got money, I got Miami, playing the championship game last year, boom, flip. Okay, like I get it. The reason I think you kind of, if you're LSU, you go, yeah, is because you got options. Like, maybe you land Abraham Ceesay, or maybe you don't. Like, maybe he does go to Notre Dame, which is what most people think he's going to. Notre Dame, Penn State, maybe he does. Or maybe you get KJ Green committed. And so you land a 5-star edge rusher in this class. Or maybe you don't get either of them. And so what do? Well, you do what Lane Kiffin always does. You go into the transfer portal, and you get the best player at your biggest position of need who's got major college experience. Listen, we've talked about it plenty here, and we've very clearly illustrated this whole thing. Lane Kiffin, Billy Glasscock, they have told you and shown you repeatedly where and what positions they are willing to spend money, invest resources in high school prospects. And it is very obvious that the defensive line is one of those spots. Now, if I'll give you a little tangent here, just a little peek behind the curtain. One of the reasons, as I've sort of had it explained to me, is like this staff values the defensive line more than cornerback because their data shows college quarterbacks that are pressured are less likely to make an accurate pass, right, than, say, an NFL player. So if you pressure the quarterback, then you don't need a lockdown cover corner because that quarterback is unlikely to make an accurate pass. So anyways, you're just looking at positional value. This staff, puts more positional value on defensive line than cornerback, okay? So you look and you go, I get it. Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, Deuce Geralds, Trenton Henderson in this year's class as well, Prince William Mielen, Jordan Ross. I mean, go up and down the list. Look at where they're investing. As far as high school prospects, they are not investing in high school offensive tackles. They will invest in high school defensive linemen that are elite that can contribute immediately because there's a rotation. So maybe they land a guy like Ceesay, maybe they land Green, maybe they go in the portal. I just think that LSU's got enough resources to figure out the edge rusher spot. Now, specifically with Green, we had Shea Dixon on with us yesterday, and he gave us a little bit. This is before we knew about Bryant's flip, but we knew Green was taking a visit. This was what Shea said about Green 24 hours ago.
I think he's a top 5, 10 edge rusher. It doesn't really matter. I mean, he's ranked as a 5-star already. The very first offer KJ Green ever got was in 8th grade at South Carolina's camp when Sterling Lucas offered him. So he had been recruiting him forever to South Carolina. You just carry that relationship over to LSU now. He's not a South Carolina kid. Yes, he is over in that area, but he's open with his process. And Lucas has a great relationship with the kid, with his parents, with everyone around him, with the people at the high school. So it's almost one where you feel like, okay, we've been in this one all along, instead of, hey, this kid kind of popped up on LSU's board whenever you got here. And that's just kind of the benefit sometimes of a coaching change where you bring in connections.
So now the deck has been cleared. Jaiden Bryant no longer committed. Tigers can focus on Ceesay, Green, maybe others at that position. and we'll see what it lands on in December. And if they don't end up getting an elite one in December, they'll do it in January in the transfer portal. All right, it's after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. Our show open every day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU, the official beer of the Saints, and the official beer of the McNeese Cowboys. Stadium is actually just, I don't know, quarter mile down the street from where I'm sitting right here as we're on the fringe of the McNeese campus here in Lake Charles, and we're thrilled to be here. So whether you're watching your favorite sporting event, you're hanging out at the beach, by the pool, whatever it may be, make sure you're drinking easy with the official beer of AFR, Bud Light. We are here at Walk-Ons in Lake Charles today, courtesy of our friends at Visit Lake Charles. You can always learn more at visitlakecharles.org, visitlakecharles.org. All right, let me knock out a quick break. All right, we're going to come back. Seth Walder from ESPN is going to join us. They've got the ESPN NFL FPI updated. So I want to talk a little bit about the Saints with one of the national ESPN guys. So Seth Walder is going to join us next. Now, Heath Schroyer on site with us in about 15 minutes. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Buying or selling, commercial or residential. Think real estate. Think Darren James. Agent225.com. Agent225.com. Had a convo last night with Darren. I was driving home from the show, and he called me. And Darren was telling me about is an AFR listener who called him. I'm going to tell you his name here in just a second. But this gentleman whose name is Jacques Juge, called Darren. He said, man, I listen to Moscona every day. I was going to sell my house. And I hear him talk about you all the time, and I still hired somebody else. And after a year of not having his home sold, he finally called Darren, listed it, boom, Darren sold it immediately. Hey, don't do what Jacques did initially. Do what Jacques did eventually. Save yourself the time, the money. You need to sell your home. Call Darren James and get your home sold. Agent225.com, agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalvr.com.
Glad to have you aboard with us here. We are in Lake Charles today at Walk-Ons on Common Street. If you're in the LC, y'all come hang out. We're here courtesy of Visit Lake Charles, Louisiana's playground. Fired up to be here today, and great turnout already. The ABC Pelican chapters here, courtesy of our friends at Mockler Beverage, and as always, our Thursday shows presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. We're into full-on talking season, although that's a bit overused. One of the things that I like about ESPN's FPI is it's not just unfounded opinions. There's actually some objective data and metrics behind it. That's why Seth Walder from ESPN.com is good enough to hang out with us here for a few minutes and explain the updated FPI metrics that are out there, what it means for the Saints. Hey, Seth, we appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Really good. I think there's a lot of optimism around the Saints. I'm curious if it's unfounded. And as I look through the FPI, maybe it might be. Let's start here, though, Seth. For those who are unindoctrinated, explain to us what FPI is.
Yeah, sure. So FPI is our Football Power Index. It is our ratings and prediction and projection system that we use not just in the preseason, but throughout the year. So in the preseason, the way it works, it's mostly based on information from the betting market. And then there's some other stuff on the edges, but that's the majority of the input. Once we go into the season, what happens is it evaluates each team on every play, their sort of efficiency on offense, defense, special teams at a play level, adjusting for the quality of opponent, and we use that to update the rating. And at any given point, whether that's now or later in the season, we simulate out the season 10 or 20,000 times, and that informs our projections to determine the likelihood of a team making the playoffs, winning the Super Bowl, getting the number.
Okay, I think we might have lost Seth there. There you are, Seth. Sorry, we lost you there for a quick second. You were talking about simulating the season.
Sorry.
No, you were talking about simulating the season 20,000 times, and then we kind of dipped there for about 10 seconds.
That informs our projections to get a chance to make the Super Bowl or win your division or be the number one pick, and so we do that every single day from this point out.
Okay, so naturally my eyes are trained to go, all right, where are the Saints? I look at the FPI rankings, and the Saints are 25th, and there's a minus 2.7 next to it. Explain what I should make of that.
Yeah, so the minus 2.7, what that means is that we think the Saints would be 2.7 point underdogs on average on a neutral against an average opponent on a neutral field. And we can use that to compare against other teams. So, like, if the Saints were to play the Dolphins, minus 5.8, we would make the Saints about a field goal favorite over Miami on a neutral field. But if they were to play, say, the Lions, plus 2.5, then we would make the Lions roughly 5-point favorites over New Orleans. So that is what that number is telling us.
There's when I look at FPI, Seth, there's a better chance of the Saints to get the number 1 overall pick than to win the Super Bowl, which is that's probably true for most teams, I would assume, in the NFL. But when you look at New Orleans, what does FPI say about the Saints this year?
Yeah, I think the thing with New Orleans is we look at a team like them, and I know that there's optimism around New Orleans, and I totally get it. But ultimately, even though Tyler Shuck, I would say, outperformed expectations, and I like a lot of what I saw out of Tyler Shuck last year, this is still a team that ranked 27th in EPA per play. That's like offensive efficiency on offense. And they were better than that on defense, but offense is what carries the day. And Tyler Shuck, again, I do think that he played better than a lot of people thought, but he still was below average when we look at QBR or efficiency numbers. And so the FPI is baking in the win total, which is going to incorporate all of that, and also information about the specific quarterback. And I think that it's basically telling us, right, it's got to see more in order to have a more optimistic forecast. Now, I think that there's definitely a possibility young quarterbacks like Tyler Shuck that you get growth, but what we haven't seen so far is, I think, a level of play that indicates, hey, this is a playoff team for sure. Now, I think a lot can happen in the NFC South, so that is your other bit of optimism.
Obviously a small sample size with Tyler Shuck, just the 9 starts. So I think, Seth, I think the optimism here I would define as cautious optimism with just a 9-game sample and a weak division, as you mentioned. Seth Walder's our guest here from ESPN talking about the new FPI rankings that are out. At Seth Walder is where you can give him a follow. Is anybody in the NFC South, does anybody in the NFC South project as maybe favorable from FPI?
Well, you know what? Let me just follow up real quick on Shuck, because you made a really good point about the 9 games. And I think that matters a lot here, which is that FPI is going to start with saying any second-round pick, they are probably bad. That is the most, like, until we've seen them, it's going to assume they're not going to be effective. And then when you get 9 games, yeah, I'm sure that Shuck's rating in the model has improved, but not by a lot, because we only have that 9-game sample. Okay, so the rest of the NFC South, let's see. Tampa Bay, we kind of have as being pretty decently out ahead of the rest of them. 41% chance that Tampa Bay wins the division, and they're the favorites. The Bucs we have as 18th in FPI, so they rank middle of the pack there. That's the best team in the division.
When we look at some other big picture topics or angles, the most likely Super Bowl is Rams-Bills. Why?
Well, for the Rams, I don't know if I need to give a hard sell here, because they are pretty loaded on both sides of the ball now, especially after the Myles Garrett trade. Look, this is a team that ranks 2nd in EPA per play on offense, the Rams, and 9th on defense. They were a good defense. They had some issues, especially at cornerback. They bring in Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. Now they had Myles Garrett, and you say, hey, this looks like a pretty complete team. Now, I think there are some injury questions still. They're maybe fragile in that way, but the Rams are the favorites, I think deservedly so. Buffalo is a little more interesting to me because there are some questions. You got a new head coach. Joe Brady comes in, and it makes me personally wonder, what happens to that defense? I think it's possible Sean McDermott got more out of that defense than out of a lackluster defensive roster. And now that he's gone, where do they go? But that being said, what's the most important thing? It's quarterback, and I know it's simplistic, but the reality is Buffalo has the best quarterback in football in Josh Allen, and that takes you far. And so that's why we have Rams over Bills and then Rams over Ravens as the 2 most likely Super Bowls coming this year.
Best quarterback in football, no love for Patrick Mahomes coming off an injury?
I mean, I don't think that over the last couple of years, Mahomes has quite been on Josh Allen's level. Now, that's just what's been the case over the last couple of years. Could Mahomes get back there? Yeah, sure. But if you're asking me to take one quarterback for this season, I'm thinking Josh Allen for sure.
Okay, what about, look, you mentioned Joe Brady. Obviously, he and Joe Burrow are forever linked with the 2019 LSU Tigers, which people here, of course, love that team. Seth, the Bengals last year were my pick to go to the Super Bowl after Burrow's amazing season 2 years ago. Obviously, he got hurt and everything blew up, and their defense stunk, and it's what it was. But there's this, I'm looking at the FPI, and Bengals and Rams is one of the top 10 most likely Super Bowls that we may see, ninth on the list. What did the computers think about Joe Burrow's return there in Cincinnati?
I'll tell you why that is. There's one big reason that is fueling that number, and that is Cincinnati's schedule. They have the easiest schedule in the NFL this season, according to FPI. And we saw what happened to New England just last year. They had the easiest schedule in the league. Propelled them to 14 wins. They ultimately get to the Super Bowl. The Bengals rank 12th in FPI, but they're the fourth most likely team to reach the playoffs. And that right there is the schedule factor. So I think that Joe Burrow, I think we would expect a bounce back. I mean, certainly you would hope for health. And if they can get that, Cincinnati is really set up to get back to the postseason again because of that schedule.
Seth Walder, ESPN.com, FPI is out. Hey, last thing for you. When you look at the whole picture, right, you're putting together the big, what for you, based on what you as a football fan and observer thought maybe was the biggest surprise at what the computer told you?
It was the Patriots being 14th. I was expecting that we were going to be not that high in the Patriots. I didn't think it was going to be that far. 14th for a reigning conference champion. It's unprecedented. We have been doing this since 2015. We have never had a reigning conference champion outside the top 10, and New England is all the way down at 14. And a lot of it comes back to the fact that while they accomplished a lot last year, they did it against a super soft schedule, and I think that is the biggest reason why there.
He is Seth Walder from ESPN. Talk a little bit about the FPI. Check it out, ESPN.com. You can follow him at Seth Walder on X. Hey, Seth, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Parish Restoration, parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. Kill mold, remove odor. Like I'm looking out here, and there's dark clouds. It's rainy. What do I tell you all the time? Louisiana is the mold capital of the world because it's wet and humid. It's a breeding ground for mold. If you have mold, think you might, it's easy. Call Parish Restoration. It doesn't matter if you're back in Baton Rouge, if you're a block from me here in Lake Charles today, New Orleans, anywhere in the state of Louisiana. Jim and his team actually do work all over the country. So if you have mold or think you might, you want to knock it out effectively, efficiently, affordably, Parish Restoration. Parishrestoration.com. Parishrestoration.com. All right, good stuff there from Seth Walder. I appreciate it. It's interesting because when naturally our eyes are all trained to go straight to the Saints or whoever our favorite team is. And when you look at the odds to make the playoff, I'm not delusional. I don't think the Saints are winning a Super Bowl or anything like that. But I think it's also natural to look at the the Patriots a year ago and say, okay, well, they came out of absolutely nowhere, won a weak division, had a weak schedule, had some good fortune in the postseason. Obviously, Bo Nix's injury with Denver helped. But I think the Saints' path is weak schedule, bad division, win it, get in, and you never know what can happen. FPI says the Bucks have a 47.3% chance to make the playoffs, and the Falcons are next at 33.7% as far as the division, right? That's just to make the playoffs. So you're actually talking about a pretty healthy advantage there for Tampa Bay. Now the Saints are just behind Atlanta, whereas ranking-wise, they're 2 spots behind Atlanta, but percentage-wise, I told you Tampa, the odds of making the playoffs for Tampa is 47.3%. The Falcons at 33%, so 14 points lower. The Saints are full 10 points behind Atlanta at 23%. So just about a 1-in-4 shot FPI gives the Saints of making the playoffs. That would be obviously winning a bad division, but the computers there clearly have the Saints a distant third in the NFC South. All right, it's After Further Review. Thursday shows are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. We're going to knock out a quick break. We're here at Lake Charles. We're at Walk-Ons in Lake Charles, courtesy of our friends at Visit Lake Charles. You can learn more, visitlakecharles.org. If it's coming to see a Gumbo Gator baseball game, the Jenny Finch World Series is going down this summer again. I think they told me earlier it's the 10th year they've done that, which is awesome. There's tons of golf, the casinos, fishing charters going out daily. Y'all make your way to Louisiana's playground. Learn more at visitlakecharles.org. All right, let me knock out a quick break. Y'all will come back. Heath Schroyer will join us, former McNeese AD, of course, now on staff at LSU. He'll be here with us on site. We'll do that next. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. Glow Resources, they are complete employer solutions. As I say every day, the way I'm very careful to make sure I say complete employer solutions. Their old slogan was complete employee solutions, but they flipped it because when you look at what they actually do, they work for you, the employer, not the employee. They're not a temp staffing agency. They help you, the employer, find full-time employment solutions. You need full-time people to fill those jobs, whether it's skilled blue-collar labor, any type of office job, from an office assistant all the way up to the C-suite. Our friends at Glow Resources, that's what they do, and they help businesses not just in Louisiana, but all over the country find jobs and place jobs all over the world. So you want to learn more, start today online at glowresources.com. GLO, glowresources.com. Complete employer solutions. I was driving to Lake Charles today, and I got a text from my buddy Jay Richardson over at Insurance Network of Louisiana. I'll read you the text. He said, "Hey, Matt, I just finished up another auto policy for another listener. This one, Thomas, saved $731 annually on his auto insurance." He said, "Matt, that's already about a dozen listeners just in a week that have called from this show, that have called Insurance Network of Louisiana, and they've been able to find better coverage for less money." They are crushing it for our listeners on auto insurance right now. If you haven't had anybody shop for your auto coverage lately, you're past due. Call Insurance Network of Louisiana, 293-0450, 293-0450. Again, 293-0450, or lainsurance.net. That's lainsurance.net. Doesn't matter where you are in Louisiana, they can help you. Better coverage for less money. 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
Glad to have you back with us here from Walk-Ons on Common Street. A guy who knew how to find this place very easily is the former athletic director and head basketball coach at McNeese. Now, of course, on staff at LSU. Heath Schroyer joins us on site. What's it like riding a bike getting over here? You could have made this drive blindfolded?
100%. Yeah, it's always great to be back. You know, these people are amazing, and you know, I've drank a few beers here in Walk-Ons, my man. I promise you that.
You know what's amazing, dude? Like, I was telling Alondra when I got here, I mean, I've been to Lake Charles so many times in my life, but in the past few years, mostly it's just been like I-10 just straight through, not stopping. This is the first time I've driven through the campus probably since pre-Ida. It's pretty. People have talked about how much the task you all had at rebuilding this. It's pretty amazing. Like, you can certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, you know, I remember every time I drive in here, and you know, my son's been here since I took the job in April, so I've been back every weekend, you know. So, but every time I drive into town, there's a moment in time where I really do think about how far we've come, you know. And in August of this year, it'll be 6 years, you know, and. You know, when this thing, I mean, everything here was underwater, you know, and there's tarps on roofs for years, et cetera, and to see where we're at now and to see, you know, how this community rebuilt is something I'm really proud of that I played a part in it.
Yeah, man, I know you must feel tremendous pride and take great ownership in everything that happened. What was the biggest challenge or opportunity to get all of this done? And that was 21, right? Was
20. August of 20.
August of 20?
Yep.
Golly. It's just, I mean, it's, I mean, so that was what was the biggest challenge or opportunity getting all of this turned around?
Oh, wow. There were a lot, but I think the biggest thing, Matt, was that we were really, I mean, when people say this community was on its knees, it was truly on its knees, and everyone was in the middle of COVID. But then you have all that, and I kind of laughed that when the hurricanes came, COVID kind of blew away,
Yeah.
But it was, to get everyone to kind of rally, and like, is McNeese really going to come back? And we had almost $300 million of damage, and
just on the campus?
Just on the campus,
okay.
Right? So I think, one of the biggest challenges was to get everyone moving in one direction about, okay, here's our goals, here's our objectives, and here's where we want to be in 3 years, but where do we want to be in 3 days? Where do we want to be in, we went 18 days without power and water. So the first couple days was making sure everything was okay and everyone was okay. And but I think I said this on the show last time I was on, but when people ask me what was the biggest thing that's kind of helped you with your leadership style and, grow as a leader, et cetera, I look back at the years I spent as a coach. Unbelievable opportunity to learn so much. But being the athletic director and the leader of a time like that was true crisis, and to really rebuild an athletic department from the studs.
Yeah.
I mean, truly from the studs was something that, I look back and I reflect on that a lot, even, weekly about, okay, what would I do in this situation? And I can refer back to so many of those examples and experiences.
What role did sports play? I think we all know, like, I'm just in my brain, I'm going back, man, to like the Dome coming with the Saints. And then obviously in Baton Rouge, there was Gustav and LSU football. That season was huge. I mean, what role did sports play for this community?
A huge one. And I thought, just like Dr. Roos when he was here as well, we both thought that, we needed to get up and running as soon as possible to get something for people to rally around. Just like the Saints back in the day. And so for us, getting our facilities rebuilt and getting up and running and getting some type of, normal activity, if you will, was really, really a big piece because it helped bring the community together. And it was, look, there's a lot of people that moved away and never came back. This place has been through it. And this is home for me. I've said that to you before. I spent more of my adult and professional life here than anywhere else. Yeah. So it gives me a lot of pride to come back and see friends, obviously, but to really just remember what it was, not too long ago, and then where it's at now.
Yeah. For those that don't know, I know we talked about it, but Heath was a basketball coach for 2 decades, and then landed at McNeese as the head basketball coach, then became the athletic director. So I think you and I were talking like, on average, it was about every 2 years, maybe you were at a different spot. Which 100%. Is kind of that's coaching, right?
That's
it's a transient profession.
That's right. And really, when I got here, I fell in love with it. And then when the hurricanes came and I was the AD, I was like, oh my gosh, right? And I'll never forget. I tell this story a lot, but the second day after the hurricanes, the people who were on my staff that were in town. We met at a picnic table by the track because everything was destroyed. And I remember being at the end of the picnic table, and there were 4 of them there, and all of them literally just were in tears, like looking around like, what are we going to do? And they all looked at me like, what are we going to do? And, you don't, there's no manual, right, to say, hey, okay, well, on chapter 2, this is what you do. You have to figure it out. And I look back on that time about, and I really learned more about leadership during that time than I don't think anything can compare.
What Heath Schroyer is our guest. We got a couple of segments before we go to break in this one. Let me ask a specific one to tie the communities together. What role did hiring Will Wade have for this community?
It's really, I'm so glad you brought that up. So that was, 22, right? And 2 years afterwards, we still were recovering. There were blue tarps all over the place. And, we were kind of just floundering a little bit. And it was a risk. It was a huge risk because, we didn't know if he was going to coach again. And, when I brought that to the president at the time, not Dr. Roos, but the president, it's kind of like, hey, this is on you. You know what I mean? And because they're like, well, what happens if he can't coach? And I go, I really don't know. We'll have to kind of figure that out. And
you're hired. Yeah. You're right back out there, Heath.
And,
dual role, AD guy.
And
it's like when you used to have player managers in baseball in the 50s.
That's right. And and so, the flip side of that though is like, okay, well, if it does work, that's on me too.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is that this community, this university needed something, a jolt, right? It needed a shot of adrenaline. And Will came here, dove into this community, and he listen, you talk about a shot of energy and a shot of adrenaline into a community. He brought it, and it worked out. And I know that he's always indebted to this community and this place, and and so am I. And it was a great run. And listen, they're still riding that wave.
Yep.
We went to 3 straight NCAA tournaments here, and our women, won the championship. We won 19 championship. That's the crazy thing, Matt, is we went, as the AD, we won 19 championships post-hurricane before I left.
That's
19,
amazing.
right? So, so there was a lot of success by a lot of sports during that time, and but this community rallied around McNeese and rallied around McNeese athletics and enabled it to truly come back and be bigger and better than it ever was.
To your point, so 19 championships over, let's call it 6 years, or maybe even 5 years.
Yeah.
You're talking about an average of 3 a year.
Oh, yeah.
While you're quite literally rebuilding facilities.
That's
and you're kind of nomadic for an early point. So it is an amazing success story. And I thought of it today as I was driving in and around Lake Charles, getting into town today. You have a new, obviously, charge professionally in life now in Baton Rouge with LSU. Let me knock out a quick break. I want to come back. I want to talk about how your transition is going. We'll talk a little bit. I know there's been some reports of some non-conference games, which is really exciting. I want to talk about the fundraising and all the roster that everybody's talking about. We'll get into all that.
Okay.
Heath Schroyer is joining us here. We are at Walk-Ons on Common Street in Lake Charles, courtesy of Visit Lake Charles, visitlakecharles.org. Our Thursday shows are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Will continue on AFR.
After further review.
Hey, if you're thinking of putting in a pool, think no further than DuPlessis Pools. My buddy Derek DuPlessis will build you a beautiful, Instagrammable pool. You'll love to take the pictures, put it on Instagram, show it off for all your friends. It's what we all do. But most importantly, when you're dealing with DuPlessis, they're going to build you a beautiful pool that lasts. I tell you all the time about the 10-year workmanship warranty. When the industry standard is 1 year, Derek DuPlessis gives you a 10-year workmanship warranty for the pools that he builds. And on top of that, ask anyone that's had a pool built. They'll probably relay to you some horror stories. I mean, it is very intrusive. Like, they're digging up your backyard, and it's a long, invasive process. So if you find a company that actually does an exceptional job of being out of the way as best they can and also delivering what they promise and giving you an enjoyable experience, you'll sing it to the mountaintops. That's DuPlessis Builders. Check them out at DuPlessisPools.com. DuPlessisPools.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalBR.com.
We continue here from Walk-Ons. We're in Lake Charles, Louisiana's playground. For tons of golf, casinos, fishing charters going out daily in Big Lake. Man, y'all get on over here to Lake Charles. Visit lakecharles.org. Visit lakecharles.org. Heath Schroyer is with us. You've made this transition to joining the LSU staff. What is the official title that
senior deputy athletic director? So here's
for basketball.
No.
So
I took Verge's old job.
Okay, got it.
So the easiest thing to say is, and really understand, is I backfilled Verge's old job, and I oversee men's basketball now. We'll see what else, gets thrown on my plate after that. But I backfilled Verge's old job.
It's a very natural thing for you to do to train because you've worked with Will and you obviously got the basketball background. The thing that everyone is asking, I know Verge talked about it earlier this week in an interview you did with Jacques Doucet, is the roster. So you can come at a perspective not only as an administrator, but also having been a head men's basketball coach. There's a lot of conversation about all the pros and the older players. Tell me what we should know and think of this.
I think, look, at the end of the day, I like our roster, and we're still trying to figure it out and who's going to get, cleared. And a couple guys have to finish a couple classes or here or there. But I feel very confident about it, and I know Coach does, and I feel confident because Coach does. But there's something, look, obviously it's LSU and it's Will Wade. But here's interesting. Last year, there were 106 players in college basketball that were 25 years or older. 106. 257 were 24 or older. So, it's...
Is some of that COVID?
Yeah, for sure some of that's COVID. I think that, look, if you look at what Illinois did last year, I think they had 6 guys that, played overseas and high-level, European basketball over there, went to the Final Four. Arizona as well had a few. Duke's had one. I mean, even in the last week. Yeah, come on.
Florida next year has 7 players. I know as I did this whole
yeah.
They will next year will have 7 players on their roster who have played professional basketball internationally.
Correct. Part of that is, look, you're going to take the heat, you're going to take the arrows because you're LSU and you're Will Wade, and that's okay. I mean, that's part of it. But there's a whole big story out there that somehow, unfortunately, doesn't get told. North Carolina signed a kid last week that played professionally in Europe, and same thing with South Carolina, and so I think there's a narrative out there that that probably needs to get told, and a lot of people don't know. But I think that. Coach is one of the smartest guys I know, and he understood the ability to get these kids in during this window of time, and I think that he's just like a lot of schools across the country are maximizing that, and I think the kids that we've been able to attract, I'm excited about.
Do you anticipate that they will get eligible?
I do, for sure. I think so, absolutely. I think they will, and just like the kid in North Carolina, I'm sure we'll get eligible. And look, I think coaches have to look at it, and they're not. Look, here's the other thing people need to understand too. When Will and the staff and LSU was over recruiting young men, they weren't recruiting against themselves. Right, so there were other schools out there that were recruiting the same kids. And
beat Kentucky for Marcio Santos.
Yeah, right.
If it's okay for Mark Pope in Kentucky, why? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So
they've heard me yell about it already.
But that's that. But Matt, that is the truth. And so I think Coach is hit the ground running. I really like his staff. They're mature. It's a different type of staff than he had at NC State, which is what he kind of wanted. And one of the guys on the staff I really liked from NC State that was here at McNeese, Brandon Chambers got the head job at Texas Rio Grande Valley. Vernon Hamilton was on the staff here, and he's on our staff. But you look at we got 3 former head coaches who've are kind of long in the tooth and been around, and I really like that. And he's also got some energy in the young guys on the staff too. So I like the staff. I like what they're doing, and I just love what athletics is what is going on at LSU athletics.
What is we talked about that there's the fundraiser coming up at Supper Club in a few weeks. What does the basketball program need what does Will Wade and the basketball program need from the LSU fan base?
I got asked that the other day, and listen, it's easy to say, hey, write checks or whatever. Honestly, buy season tickets. Come out and support it. It's been a long time since we've been relevant in men's basketball at LSU, and right, wrong, or we're relevant now. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is that everyone matters, right? Not just the people who can write $100,000 or $1 million check or whatever. Everyone matters, and the people that go in there and buy a $15 ticket or $20 ticket or what have you, and come and cheer and be a part of it. everyone matters. And I would tell the entire fan base to come support it because, I think, obviously our schedule, and I'm sure you're going to get into that. I was teasing the other day. I said, we got a few home games here that, we can kind of, warm up a little bit, But you know what? It's exciting, and our schedule is going to be very, very daunting. But again, like SEC is ranked the #1 basketball league in the country. So in order to get ready for SEC play, you have to have a very challenging preseason. And we're not going to go 12-1 and everyone thinking it's all going to be inflated. We're going to have we're going to have a few losses probably, but they're going to be against really good teams, and we're going to have some good wins, etc. But that's going to prepare you for the gauntlet of the SEC schedule.
We literally have 90 seconds, so hard break. Is Gonzaga confirmed? I saw a report from a Spokane, that is happening.
Yes, we're going to play Gonzaga 14th, I think. Yes.
And then the other was the Acrisure series in Palm Springs.
Yes, and unbelievable field over there too.
But don't know the opponents yet.
Don't know the opponents yet, but it's a great field. And both of those, I think, especially the Palm Springs in November, right, will be great for our donors and fans that want to come and be a part of that. So we're going to try to, rally some people to come and, bring your golf clubs and play around the golf, and then, come support the Tigers.
Golf in Palm Springs to go watch in November. Yeah,
come on, that's right.
Might be playing some meaningful football games around November 14th.
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
Last thing, like literally 30 seconds from a just on-court, like Coach Heath basketball perspective, what does the roster still need? What are they missing?
I think we need a point guard. I think, a real floor general, have some depth at the guard, because at the end of the day, look, people win games in the NCAA tournament because of guard play.
Who you getting?
I don't know yet.
Who you getting?
I have no idea. Listen, I don't recruit. I don't know.
Give me a name.
I don't know.
Who should they consider? If there were a player available, who might it be? I'll ask him off air. Heath, Schroyer, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for being in Lake Charles, man. That's awesome.
Always welcome to come in. Appreciate the invite. All right, hour number 2 is coming up after SportsCenter.
After further review.
We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land, your first call should always be to First South Farm Credit. Actually, I just gave you the old URL, but both work. You can go to firstsouthland.com, but really want to stress firstsouthfarmcredit.com. It's pretty natural. The name of the business is First South Farm Credit. firstsouthfarmcredit.com. Yeah, so go there. If you're thinking of buying land, look, there's so many reasons why Louisianians buy land. And it's, for many, the realization of a dream. Maybe it's you've been on someone else's hunting lease for years and you want your own hunting property for you and your family. First South Farm Credit can help make that happen. Maybe you want to build your family's dream home and you want 100 acres and you and your siblings or your parents can all have homes on the same property, whatever the case may be. First South Farm Credit can make that happen. So start online at firstsouthfarmcredit.com. Thinking of buying land? firstsouthfarmcredit.com.